As a tax agent, I hear a lot of common misconceptions when it comes to tax deductions. Everyone is out to seek to maximize their return, but a lot of people get some basic deductions very wrong. Here are some of the common things that I hear that are completely wrong when it comes to tax deductions. The first is around clothing costs, and I think this is probably the area where most people would actually go wrong with their tax return because they don't know what is actually claimable. When you go to the uniform clothing section of the tax return, there are 4 different labels that you can pick from. You can pick from compulsory work uniform, non-compulsory work uniform, protective clothing, or occupation-specific clothing. But what are these things? So what can you actually claim in these labels? Well, something like compulsory uniform might be a logoed shirt that you have to buy, or maybe it's a logo hoodie that you buy for your company. Obviously, you're not going to wear this anywhere else but to work, so you're going to be able to claim this. Now, this could be compulsory, or maybe it's non-compulsory. Some places will have logoed uniform that you don't have to wear, but you still may buy it. You have to have spent the money and not been reimbursed for it to be able to claim that as a tax deduction. Now, protective clothing would be people like maybe they're working a trade and they buy high-vis vests, or maybe they're buying work boots. These are going to be protective gear that they need to be able to do their job. Again, this will be claimable. Occupation specific is a really interesting one. The example the ATO use is a chef that wears checkered pants that identifies them as a chef. I think this is a very odd example, but there are a few on the ATO website, so if you're going to claim under the occupation specific area, then I definitely recommend that you go and read what they say about this. Now, so where a lot of people go wrong is actually an area that the ATO has a big warning on their website about. So let's read what they say. You can't claim a deduction for buying, hiring, repairing, or cleaning conventional clothing you buy for work, even if your employer says that it is compulsory. So this includes things like maybe a suit. Maybe you're a lawyer and you have to wear a suit to work. Well, that's not claimable because it's conventional clothing. Maybe you work in a clothing store and you buy those clothing that your store sells. Again, you can't claim this. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, I have to dress nicely for work, so I buy professional clothing. Again, not claimable. There is very limited circumstances where you can actually claim uniform costs. You need to meet one of those things I talked about earlier, or you'll get this area wrong. The second area is the $300 deduction. That's not a thing. You can't just claim $300 for every single item. Now, where does this misconception come from? It comes from the fact that you can claim up to $300 without receipts across your whole return. This doesn't mean that you can go and claim $300 per item. So, if you're going to claim up to $300, you don't need receipts, but you still need to explain what you bought, how you come up with it. So you can't just claim $300 if you haven't actually spent anything. And especially not in one of those areas we talked about previous, like uniform. If you go and put $300 and the ATO do an audit on you and they ring your employer and they go, no, we don't have a work uniform, they're going to get rid of that claim. Now, if you claim over $300 in total across your entire return, you need receipts to substantiate everything. So if you claim $301, you need receipts for every single claim that you've put in your return. So don't get sucked into people going, oh yeah, you can just claim $300 for tools, $300 for uniform, $300 for laundry, $300 for donations. You get that wrong because that is not how it works. It's not a limit per item. It's a limit across your entire return, and you still needed to have actually spent the money on these things to claim them. It's just the ATO a little bit more lenient if your claims are under $300 total, where you don't need to potentially have receipts for them. I would definitely recommend, though, keeping receipts, because if your claims go over that, you need to substantiate the lot, and therefore you will need the receipts. And then, of course, we have donations to charities, and this is definitely an area I hear a lot of myths about. I hear people saying, oh, you can claim just $300 without receipts. I've heard $500 without receipts for donations. I've had plenty of people tell me, oh, just claim the minimum for donations. Yeah, I do $50 here, $50 there. Unfortunately, that's not how it works for donations. So let's have a look at what the ATO says you can actually claim when it comes to a donation. So they simply state that to claim a deduction, you must be the person that gives the gift or donation, and it must meet the following conditions. It must be made to a DGR, so that is a deductible gift recipient. It must truly be a gift or donation. So it can't be something where you're getting something in return. We then have to make sure that it is money or property. This includes financial assets such as shares, and it must comply with any relevant gift conditions. For some DGRs, the income tax law adds conditions affecting the type of deductible gifts they can receive. So you need to make sure it meets one of these things. And that isn't just I can claim $100 without receipts. You need to make sure you've got your receipts to show that you actually made the donation. Now, the only time you don't need receipts when it comes to donations is for bucket donations, but you are limited to $10 for the whole year that you can claim for bucket donations that you've made without receipts. So this obviously isn't going to be much of a claim. It's going to have very minimal impact on your tax return, but that is where people think that they go wrong, because they think that $10 limit is much larger, and they start telling friends and family, oh, it's $300, $400, $500. Nope, it's only $10 for bucket donations. Everything else, you're going to need that receipt to show that you actually made the tax deductible donation. Now, while I am on the topic of tax deductions, this upcoming video I've put together is 5 common tax deductions that people miss. I'd love for you to go and check that one out.